Welcome to another episode of Daily Gym. In yesterday's video, I mentioned a coaching call I had with somebody to try and improve his productivity. And in that video, I focused on the task management or the to-do list process that I advised him to use. But that wasn't the only thing we discussed, because I also asked him the question, which task takes the most time every single day? Because that's the task we should try and make more efficient so we can have a higher return on our time savings. And the answer he gave me was reading and replying emails. I think this is something that applies to many other people. So in today's video, I want to talk about the advice I gave him regarding this particular point. The follow-up question I asked him after he told me he was replying a lot of emails every day was, what kind of process do you use to reply your emails? Do you allocate a certain time slot every single day to replying emails? Or do you do it whenever they come in? Or do you have something else in mind? And what he told me was that he replies emails as soon as they come in. And sure enough, there are some people for which this works really, really well. But generally speaking, as a human being, we only have a limited amount of mental capacity that we can allocate to whatever task we're doing. But whenever we get notifications, whether it's a pop-up on a screen, a sound that comes in, or a buzz, or anything that targets our senses, whatever attention we gave to the task at hand, a percentage of it, it can be more or it can be less, depending on how much we can tune out or tune out any of those distractions. But a certain percentage of our attention will be allocated to that particular notification. And especially if we're doing a certain task, a notification comes in, we start looking at it, we feel we have to take care of it right now. We're taking ourselves out of the moment, out of a certain state of mind or even the state of flow, the zone that we were in terms of doing that particular task, and switching our mind to that email or replying that particular message. And then once we finish that, we're trying to switch back to the task we were doing. But it will take some time to kind of get back into the groove and get back to the point that we were in before. So even though you might be very efficient at doing that particular task as well as replying the email, in between that switching cost is a gap where we really lose a lot of time. And I feel many people are not really aware that this actually happens. Sure enough, they might feel it, but because they never really tried to tackle it, they're really losing and wasting a lot of time. And at the end of the day, they think, what did I spend all my time on? I managed to reply all these messages, did a few tasks, but it feels like I wasn't working for 8 hours, but only for 3 or 4 hours, which is usually where these switching costs come in. So this was the first thing I told to him in terms of, instead of replying as soon as something comes in, instead focus about blocking out a certain half an hour or 1 hour every single day. Even you can spread it one time in the morning, one time in the afternoon, so that's the time at which you really focus everything on replying emails. And all the other minutes or hours in the day, you don't spend any time on replying messages. Because at this point, it also becomes important, what is really your responsibility within the company? And his responsibility was not so much about replying emails that come from outside or talking with people outside the company, but instead it was about managing the people inside the company, which means that the emails were actually lower on his priority list, even though he was spending most of his time every day on doing that. So knowing what your priorities are within the company also makes a difference in terms of knowing, should I dedicate time to replying as soon as possible and having these switching costs and taking them with them, or having the luxury or opportunity to kind of forget about that and simply think about what's the most efficient way I can work every single day. Finally is a notion that, again, many people know somewhere in the back of their mind, but they don't feel 100% comfortable with it, which is the fact that you don't have to reply every single thing that comes in. Sure enough, it's much nicer if you can acknowledge to somebody that you've received something, or that you can reply to somebody so that they also know that what your opinion is, or that things can move along. But again, at some point, the more popular you get, the more famous you get, the more responsibilities you have, the more messages will start coming in and the more people will start taking away your time. And at some point, you simply cannot manage it. Of course, that's the point. Most people actually get a secretary or so. But generally speaking, you don't have to reply every single thing that comes in. So to sum up today's video is, think about what is the process you're using in terms of messaging or notifications. Would it make more sense to switch off notifications, or would it make more sense to spend at a certain time in the day to reply to all these notifications instead of doing it whenever they come in? Because the switching calls are the things that take away all the time that you could be using for anything else that's much more productive. Secondly is, what are your priorities? Does it make sense to actually reply as soon as possible, or can I have the luxury and opportunity to do it whenever I want to? And finally, you don't need to reply to everything. That's all for today's video. I'll be back with another video tomorrow, so have a nice day today, everybody.